so many guys tell stories about your work ethic.
Yeah.
What was really your work ethic like, and for how long did you stay disciplined?
Well, I mean, every day. I mean, since 20 years, it's an everyday process, and trying to figure out strengths and weaknesses. For example, jumping ability. Man, my vertical was a 40, it wasn't a 46 or a 45. My hands are big, but they're not massive. Right? So you got to figure out ways to strengthen them, so your hands are strong enough to be able to palm a ball and do the things that you need to do. Quickness. I was quick, but not insanely quick. I was fast, but not ridiculously fast. Right? So I had to rely on skill a lot more. I had to rely on angles a lot more. I had to study the game a lot more. And but I enjoyed it though. So like from the time I can remember when I started watching the game, I studied the game, and it just never changed.
I get up from the ground, but my mind promised keeping it down. And it's time to decide on the action now to force the time. And I feel that I can win. My mind's on starting to spin, starting over once again.
Welcome to the Starting Over Podcast. My name is Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is the show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and get into it because I know it's been a little while since I put out a show, and I know Nationals has happened, and all this other stuff has happened, and you're going to be like, Dark Logos, Critical Clicks has put out 8 episodes. What's going on? Like what? Like you're not making anything. And I'm like, if you've been following this channel, bruh, I'm operating on old man time. So yeah, beginning of the month, as most folks know, August 3rd is my birthday. So I celebrated my birthday. I'm the big 4-0 now. And so yeah, so took some time for that. My mom's birthday is the 9th. And for anyone's like, there's a lot of personal information. I'm like, I don't use this on any security information. So, yeah, good luck on that. Anyway, it's been a little bit busy. Then we had Nats, and now we're looking at this weekend going into Worlds and trying to get ready for Worlds here. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to give you your insights getting ready for Worlds. So the first thing that we're going to just talk about is the 3 main concerns that if you're going to Worlds, you need to be mindful of outside of how you're getting there in your economic situation. And I'm just more talking about team building if you're going to do 300-point modern. Problem number 1, are you going to innovate or are you going to go down the road more travel? Okay? If you've decided that you're going to go down the road more travel, you're looking at what won Nationals, what did well at Nationals, and how does that fit with your personal play style, okay? You might make minor tweaks for your play style and for accessories, but truth be told, you're not changing much. All right, do understand your advantages. Number 1, there is data. There's data, there are matches that you can analyze. There are matchups that you can analyze. You can look at brackets, look at why certain things won and why certain things didn't win. Okay? Your disadvantage. Anyone that's doing the same amount of research is going to know what your team can and cannot do in general. All right? So, but here's another added bit of knowledge that gives you some more information that can give you an edge. Your opponent does not know your tarot card deck if you do decide to play with tarot, okay? At the same time, you could try to figure out, based off of the data that's presented, what are the most common tarot cards that are going to be played, okay? And in doing so, trying to figure out what the most common tarot cards are going to be played, you can go listen to Clicked Off or Critical Clicks or any number of other high quality heroclix podcasts. And they're going to tell you what these cards are and why they synergize and all this other stuff. But my key thing with you, the listener, is take note of those cards and then decide, are those cards good for you? If not, what's your plan? If so, do you need to have them all the time? Okay? Or is having a certain effect just in play, you could withstand it if you have it and your opponent both have it on your turns, possibly 2 turns in the game. Okay? Also, do consider that if you play a card and your opponent plays a card, and they're the same card, whoever went last gets their card bounced. Okay? So it doesn't say you get to draw again. It just says, hey man, your card isn't active. So we're now dealing with, some added complexities. The other thing that I would also present to you is you can clearly see that Thanos is still part of the competitive scene. It has a lot of wings. It's down in the Red Bull, along with that power gem. And there's a lot of kamehameha that's still going on with the Thanos there. So are you able to deal with Thanos? And that's your next question. Okay. So if you can't deal with Thanos and you whatever you're making, then you need to just completely rehaul your team. But more specifically, you need to also say, it's like, what's my answer for securing Iron Man? Like, what am I doing? And if I don't have a plan for that, oh buddy, you're gonna have some problems. So the road most traveled, I'm going to tell you 100% is going to be 2/3 of the field. Okay? Be prepared for rehashes of national level teams and splashing tarot cards. Okay? Now, for some of you, you might be saying, hey, but Dark Logos, you splash in those tarot cards. Wouldn't some of those teams all of a sudden start to be able to do things they couldn't do before? And wouldn't there be specific interactions that are just darn near broken? And also, wouldn't there be situations where on certain turns it completely changes decision making? I'm like, yeah. Yes, that's all true. That's all true. You can play. I play tested tarot cards for 2 weeks now. And the thing that I can clearly say that will happen is that original tempos, things that you're hoping that are going to land on first turn, that as the tarot card player, if they don't land, you're not crippled because your plan isn't revolved around that landing. But if it does land, it hypercharges that first turn. Oh golly, buddy, it sure the heck does. And because of that hypercharge, there is a clear tempo change, definitely for player one because of tarot cards. Okay? The player one gets to set the tempo, and not only are they able to set the tempo, they're able to a degree, bounce their opponent's tarot card out of play if they play the same card. So there is a bunch of cool stuff that's in effect that people may or may not be thinking about. Okay. Going back, like I said, if you do your research now going into Worlds, you're going to be in a lot better position because you're able to determine for what decks are going to probably be the most common based off of what the commentators say, and more importantly, just looking through of what's available and which cards just benefit certain teams. And I'm going to be 100. like a dollar bill. Your tarot card selection is more than likely going to line up with what the commentators say. I'm just going to be honest with you. Because what it requires for you to come up with something different is to have confidence in yourself that you know better. Or that they're just wrong. And that's a lot of confidence most people do not have. All right. So let's go ahead and go into the road less traveled, bushwhacking it through the jungle here. Okay. So you're trying to go the innovator route. I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry. If you hadn't been working on that project since last month at earliest, you're behind. What are you doing? Like, you don't have time to be reading manga and playing League of Legends. You have to go in and get the work done. All right, you got to get the work done now. Okay, there's a lot of pressure that's on you, because the first thing that you have to ask yourself is, number one, and I'm going to say this straight up, is how are you going to solve for Sarkarian Iron Man? And it's like how many licks it takes to get to the center of Tootsie Roll Pop. And I'm not Mr. Owl here, okay? How are you going to solve that? Because no matter what you think it's going to take to solve that problem, unless you can consistently do it with a variety of Sarkarian Iron Man, support matchups, you're in a lot of trouble. You just are. Okay, and therein lies the big issue going into Worlds, is that Sarkarian Iron Man is broken. We know he's broken. The fact that he operates the way he does is broken. Okay, the issue that comes in is with tarot. Sarkarian Iron Man is the most optimized figure in all matchups. And once you understand that, you're going to understand that, yes, you can say you have a Thanos problem because I can roll a die and I can get plus to my rolls and all this other jank, and he has a bunch of powers on dial and I can give him some more powers with equipment and blah, 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 this, that, the other, da. Okay? But the fact of the matter is that every one of your attack powers, every one of your damage powers, Sarkarian Iron Man can just get. And that makes tarot cards a liability or a blessing. And it allows for a Sarkarian Iron Man player to play cards that are typically not played, to create engagements, because I don't want to use the word play, to create engagements that the average player may not be thinking of at this time. And the most innovative and flexible piece in the meta right now is Sarkarian Iron Man. Just is. All right. You might be saying, but Dark Logos, I'm going to go with the X-Men. Then I'm going to tell you, you have better have been working since last month, bruh. You better have been working since last month. And I'm going to tell you, being 100, I'm working on X-Men. And X-Men is hard. And there are a lot of cool things that are in X-Men. I have a whole document. I got 8 pages of notes on X-Men. And do you want to know the number one thing I've learned about X-Men? And lean in. It's a secret. That's why I'm putting it on the internet. Okay? Ready? They're hella soft. That's right. The majority of the most viable options for X-Men are super soft. And when you go into swap, your number one problem is there are higher point figures that have lots of utility, have also a lot of other problems that are just floating through the game. And when you're starting to deal with point efficiency, you have to start looking at characters on X-Men that are 60 points and less, or less. Yeah, 60 points or less, and your exception to that is A. That is it. The majority of your X-Men, for all intents and purposes, are very short-term powerful. And when they start falling, they become very weak real fast. Okay? And that's important to understand, is that they become very weak real fast. Almost any support option that you want, it's there. So that's a positive. But at the same time, creating a force that is hyper flexible, that's there as well. So if you're able to deal with the softness and you're functionally able to deal with every piece that's 70 points or less, you have a lot to consider with X-Men. The problem is the mental math in the swaps and knowing what your calls are going to be on your sideline. And are you going to start with a skeleton team that is going to have core components in, so you always have it, and swap out to other options? Or are you going to have team 1 on the field and then make some composites of team 2 and team 3 and potentially team 4 utilizing your sideline based off of your matchup? And again, like I said before, if you haven't done the math, wait until tonight, girl. Because the math will kick your butt. The math will kick your butt. And I have done math problem after math problem. I literally look like that meme with that lady, and the trigonometry and the geometry like problems are in the background, and she's just like pondering the truths of math. Like, I've been that dude, and I'm going to tell you, it's rough. Now, I know some folks we say like Dark Logos, I'm not playing X-Men. Are you playing Avengers? Because you get Security and Iron Man. Are you playing, and you're able to get swapped there, so come on, sit down and join the calculus class, because that's what you're going to need. All right? You're going to have a PhD in mathematics by the time you're done playing freaking swap. All right? Here's your other issue. If you're playing swap, and I'm going to broaden it up to swap, so my Fantastic Four, my Avengers, my X-Men, and also my Frightful Four, because people forget about them. Frightful Four. And Hellfire Club and Brotherhood, because they also swap, and people forget about them too. Whatever your math is, have it out ahead of time, but also do be aware that if you do not have practiced preset plans, you will be screwed. Dun 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 dun, screwed. And if you think that you're going to be able to do magic math on the fly, you are wrong. Dun 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 dun, dun. Wrong. Okay, so with all fun aside, factoring in tarot cards into the swap tech, you do have a lot of flexibility, but you also have a problem. And that problem is, what is your core cards doing, and what core figures are always in? Or do you have certain themes that will always be prevalent that you're always going to be using? Okay? And that's really important, because if you have cards, and let's just say I'm running X-Men and my cards really do good for Maggot, but then I run into a matchup where I'm not using Maggot, is it really good for me to have that card? And the answer is no. So functionally, I have a dead turn where I'm not benefiting and potentially my opponent is. That's not good. So now I have to look at a card that deals with my universal. My universal is what I would call my anchor figure. Okay, this figure is always going to be in there no matter what. With, rain or shine, he's going to be in there. He's going to, or she's going to be in there putting in the work. Okay, and a lot of people do not have that figure, and so in the process of making their swap tech and everything else, they're not going to think about that, and so all of a sudden they're going to reveal that card after the beginning of the game, and they're going to look at that card and be like, "Oh, I swapped into something that is completely useless for me." And there you go. All right, so let's say that you're not interested in swap. There is the good stuff wins strategy, and the issue with good stuff wins is good for what? Good for what? And you have to start asking yourself, can this figure solve a multitude of problems? And if not, then, well, they may not be the figure for you. And so you need to balance your offense with your transportation, with your control. And I would really insist that you would do what I would call I call it a 1-1-1-1-3, or it's a 1-1-3. Okay, so 3/4 of your team is offense. Half of your remaining points is transportation. Half of your remaining points is support/control. And I know some of you be like, that's so little control. Like, well, look at the current format. I'm just going to be transparent here. The current format is set up for you to just kamehameha and throw hands. There is no significant other tactical decisions that are made other than negating your barrier. Okay? And I'm just going to be transparent, because you might be saying, like, Dark Logos is rather pissed off at game design. And I am. And I am, because here's the problem. The offensive tilt of WizKids game design is so insane. It's so insane that almost all other play design options pale in comparison. Said almost, not all. All right. And because of that, you're seeing the meta, quote unquote, being ruled by aggressive figures that are cost effective, and the best controls / best defenses are the only figures that can be played. Think about that. Only the best controls and the best defenses can be played. A figure can't simply just be there for outwit. I need to be able to take out 2 powers at least, or be able to swap between prob or outwit or perplex or whatever else. Okay, I can't simply have a figure that's there and its job is to increase my stats of a certain keyword or whatever. They have to do that, plus possibly have a useful team ability, and also be able to potentially tie up and be a successful tie-up piece in a pinch, or also have enhancement or empower to give just that little extra oomph in there. All right, all for 25 points. You start to see the problem when we're looking at game design. But going back to helping you out, you want to be looking at, I will call this the 3 distinctive categories right now. You're looking at, and I never thought I would say some of this, your best 35 points or less support, your best 50 points or less attackers, secondary attackers, or attacker support hybrids, or attacker transport hybrids. And then you're looking at no more than 75 points for your main attacker. And you're like, Hold up, Dark Logos. You said Thanos. You said I rewound the track. It back. Couple minutes ago, you said Thanos is still in the meta. I'm like, yeah, he's like, and Thanos is over 100 points. Yeah, he's over 100 points. So how is he in the meta not abiding by this formula? And it's simple. He does what 4 characters does. He does what 4 characters would normally do, and at worst 3. So there you go. So when we look at this now, we start to see a landscape that opens up. Now, again, we might have like those rogue, like I playing Unimind. Bruh, shout outs to you. Shout outs to you and your cojones of steel that are as dense as the darkest black hole. Cause bruh, no one saw Unimind coming. Like no one. So you had the surprise and wow factor. So yeah, there you go. Much respect to you, sir, because you had to beat some good people to break. All right. So when all is said and done, we see a wide breadth of options that are on the table for a person making the team. And if my recommendation for you going forward is you have 5 days from the moment that this recording goes up to finish your build. Because if you need to eBay anything, you're going to have to do it. If you need to borrow anything, you need to confirm that you can get it. Whatever you need to lock that down. Lock it down. Because if you don't, all your playtesting may be for naught. Now, if you have everything where you can borrow everything, then play on player and then keep going. But you have 5 days to finish everything out, because you don't want to be stuck and only to find out, it's Monday, you're going, and the event is Friday, and you need that one last piece. You don't want that to happen. Okay, so there we go. All right. Now you might be saying next, like Dark Logos. Well, you talked about the tarot cards. You talked about the road most traveled, the road least traveled. Like really, all right. What else do you have? And I'm like, okay, so here we go. Going off my little rant about aggro. Aggro is obscenely high. It's obscenely high. And because aggro is obscenely high, it creates a new problem. And it's a problem that we've never encountered before. Okay? And it is whoever hits the hardest the most wins. Whoever hits the hardest the most wins. Okay? And because we're in that type of situation, it creates several problems. Your first problem, which I'm going to be like 100% transparent on, is if you are not able to do 5 or 6 damage in a play off of one figure, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You need to you need to be able to throw out in a turn, and I'm not joking, 18 damage. If you can't throw out 18 damage, you need to reevaluate quote unquote things. Okay? Because your team's not going to survive. Oh, I have Sarkarian Iron Man, and he does a lot of damage. I'm like, yes, he does. He does do a lot of damage. But let's look at that all of a sudden. Let's bring up Mr. Simcard. Okay. So let's say we are dealing with a scrumptious, super duper Iron Man, and he has 1 token. Okay, he's doing 3 damage. Let's say he has 2 tokens. He's doing 4 damage. Okay? He's also a 12 attack and a 19 defense. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. All right. So our next thing we have to establish real quick is because he has those values, what else is he going to do? Well, he has a 2 permanent damage, so that means that he could get up to 5 at max with a rule of 3, and it's like, okay. So once we factor all that in, 1 enhancement or 1 empower allows for him to cap out his damage at 5. Like, yes. All right, so he only has 1 token, so that means that he has to be like TK'd up to do a flurry, so then he's doing 8. So that's pretty good. That gets me like halfway there. He can running shot for 4. We can do that. All right. It's not that absurd. We're looking at stuff that's reasonable. But once we start adding in charge flurry, we start adding in running shot energy explosion, we start adding in flurry quake, things change. Things change in terms of that damage output all of a sudden. Okay? And that's one of the bigger problems. Okay, and this is why, again, I'll say, again, Sarkarian Iron Man, going to be your meta problem. All right, now, let's also go back and ask ourselves this. All right, like, do we have any other big attackers? Well, there's still Sky Tyrant. That dude is still there, okay? He's coming all the way downtown to try to kill you and the whole squad. He's running the op. All right. But where's our disadvantage with him? Okay, we can tap him once and we can sort of cripple him and try to keep him out the game. But there are a lot of mechanics in the game now where he could just heal and he's right back there being a problem. So deleting him is pretty much almost required. Okay. The other thing, again, like we're saying with the aggro, is Thanos. Yes, has Thanos fallen off? No. One of the key things to keep in mind with Thanos right now, and I really want to keep this, 100, is that the majority of the maps that are in play do not protect you from Thanos just booping over and blasting you. Realm of Death was a double-edged sword for Thanos. And in the current format, losing Realm of Death makes Thanos, in all honesty, a little bit more exposed, but able to be a lot more aggressive. Thanos can just bounce out there and just boom, 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 boom. And just lay down the thunder. And there's nothing you can do. There's nothing that you can do. And knowing that is a big deal. Okay? The other element that you can also consider is saying, like, let's say you're not using Thanos. All right? You're using Prime Mimic because you're not running X-Men Swap and you see the utility of Prime Mimic. There's a lot of opportunity to do a lot of damage with Prime Mimic with a lot of flexibility once you start adding in equipment and other team setups. Okay? All right, so let's go a step further. Okay? Let's go a full-on step further. All right? Let's say you are now experimenting with getting a lot of support and getting another attacker pumped up and doing a lot of damage. Okay, so now you're dealing with a base damage of 3 with a higher range and some type of improved targeting. Okay, there's some advantages there too. Okay, I want you all to sort of have this open mind and also understanding of, in our current situation with the game, there is more shooting gallery type situations that are open than there is for you to bunker down. So when we're analyzing the maps, there are less places to hide in the current map pool than there are for you to just scrap it out. So your engagements are going to be a lot more exposed and front facing. And so having attackers that can either take the hit, come back from revival, be able to present you certain advantages or whatnot, they're useful. Okay? They're very, very useful. All right. The next thing that you might want to be looking at, and we're looking at defense. All right. And I want to magnify a point and make it 100% clear. The current level of defense in the game does not compete against the raw aggression that is in the game currently. And defense, at best, eats an action for your one action that you spent. Previously, there was a chance that defense could cause your opponent to spend 2 actions for your one action, giving you a positive return. The only thing that you are doing by spending your one defensive action is hoping that that negation element is not a free action, or it just happens for free. So, prime example is big girl Jubilee riding, Powder Puff Dragon. Okay, and Puff the Magic Dragon blows the barrier down as soon as she's within range. Okay, so the barrier is down. That just happens. That just happens. So what do you do? How do you fight that? There's no free action that you have to deal with. Now you're gonna say it's like, well, they're running shotting, so it's sort of an action. Like, yeah, and they get to punch you. They get to punch you. And that's why, as a defensive player, I believe right now, with all of the anti-barrier options and the anti-smoke cloud options, and realistically, every defensive power right now has a negation in play. Okay? Every defensive power has a direct negation in play. All right, so I want you to just, for your own research, look up how many characters that just turn stuff off by being within range or next to them. Okay? And you'll start to realize real quick that there are about 7 to 8 mini Nick Furies running around. There's 7 to 8 mini Nick Furies running around. And they're at all levels of rarity. Okay? They're at all levels of rarity. So if you're like, oh man, Dark Logos, you're just hating because Diamond Patch and Tempo are on X-Men. I have no hate. I have love for Diamond Patch. Like super love for Diamond Patch. But I'm going to be clear. Diamond Patch comes in and negates a bunch of stuff. He just does. All right? He negates your keywords. He negates your stealth. He negates your shape change. All right? The new Magneto. He comes up and says, homie. Like you understand you're dealing with the master of magnetism, right? And you understand that I can like read your electromagnetic field, right? You understand that, right? Guess what? Your impervious, your shape change, and your super senses rolls. All -1. I don't care what your source is. All -1. Yes. Do you just have Wonder Woman TA? Guess what? You don't have senses. Like, oh, do you just have scrolls? You don't have scrolls. Like, oh, do you have some weird like impervious on 6? You don't got that. Oh, actually, I'll take that back. It says on 6 always success. So take that back. All right, so you're only successful on 6. So you're stripping down. You're stripping down a lot of different characters. Oh, do you have all of these pluses on your senses roll? I got two Magnetos. I could just put you to normal senses and then have you get hit by precision strike. Okay, you're gonna say like Dark Logos, that's not super cost efficient. That's not super cost efficient, Dark. I'm like, problem solving. All of a sudden, when there's a need, folks will all of a sudden pay the cost. But until there's a need, folks won't pay the cost. But and this sort of goes back to what I'm saying is, if you are a defensive player, this is a horrible time to be playing. Because you don't have any good defensive options to protect yourself. None. And with Leech rolling around, good luck, buddy. Good luck. Leech and plus Taxi equals a free turn for your opponent to come in and just run a drive-by on your team. It's the honest truth. And so that's the frustrating thing, like just looking forward, is defense is functionally dead. They might say, oh, but if my opponent doesn't have these 8 figures, like literally there are 4 of them that are staples. There's 4 of the negation figures, and I'm not going to go into it because I'm not going to throw any of my teammates under the bus, and I'm not going to throw myself under the bus. And I've already given you 2 that are real common, which is Diamond Patch and Tempo. Okay? And they're on X-Men. All right. It's easy. And oh hell, freaking Magneto, 3. So I've given you 3, and they're all on X-Men. All right. So don't try to depend on your defenses. You're going to be like, but Dark Logos, I have defend. Okay. There's defend hate too. Some people might not like it, but there's defend hate too. It's like Dark Logos, I have super high stats. There's stat hate too. Or have you forgotten about Pulse Wave? Okay, have you not forgotten about Pulse Wave? Okay, so I'm just presenting all those things to you. Now you're gonna be like, well, what's left? I'm like, control. Control is what's left. And we see the control being very common with your Molecule Man, with your Faust. Those are controls. Okay, you can make the argument that Molecule Man is defensive, but Molecule Man is a control. All right, he just comes up and says, "Yeah, you don't get to build the wall. We're going to blow up that wall. This is Berlin in the 80s all over again." Not only that, you're going to see other characters that can exhibit controls that make your opponents to have hard decisions to make. And I think one of the new ones that is mostly underestimated because people haven't thought about the application is Unis the Untouchable. And if you start looking at the options that Unis has access to on theme, you're going to be like, oh, you mean Sky Tyrant is going to have a problem with me? You mean that potentially I have to make my opponent risk to do a very strong long range attack before they come up with a melee attack? And I know somebody's going to say nobody's going to play Unis the Untouchable Dark Logos. I'm like, until they do. But I do know this much: Unis the Untouchable, even if he worked 50% of the time, creates a major problem for Isaac's Arnold Berkovitz team. Because you just can't launch flashes everywhere if they have to play Mother May I. Okay, and I know some folks will say, that's a 50-50 Dark Logos. I'm like, yeah, it is a 50-50. You still have to play it, though. You still have to play it. You can't just Colossal Retaliate in his range. So all of a sudden, there are options and things that open up. So you need to go and look at controls. You look at controls, look at the tarot cards that help you with your controls. As long as your control isn't mind control, I'm being 100. If your control is not mind control, you're good to go. But if your control is mind control, you need another option. You just need another option. So, all right, that's it for today's show. I'd like to thank you all for listening. I know everybody's probably like, yo, we're going to talk about tarot cards. Come on, but everybody else talk about them tarot cards. But you're going to come in there, man. And I understand that. I think it's more of getting time because, like I said, I am getting ready for Worlds, and there are things that I'm trying to do. I had bought a piece, and I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want folks going out there on eBay trying to get it. And the guy told me that it was broken. He's issued a refund, and I'm just like, yo, bro, I will buy this from you. I don't care. Give me a discounted price. I'll buy this from you. I need this. But, yeah, it sort of sucks. So that's it. I'd like to thank you all for listening. You can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com if you wish to opine. Keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it Autobot, baby. Let me know what you are planning to do for Worlds. Preferably do not put your team below. I am not that type of individual. Yeah, tell me what you think of the show. I'd like to thank you all for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.